digital age has reshaped almost every part of our lives. From how we consume the news to how we spend our spare time. Welcoming technologies designed to make life easier and more convenient. Why stand outside reading a menu when you can make a reservation with a few simple taps of a screen? And you have to admit, it's pretty nice being able to cycle to work with the click of a button. And it makes it handy to book hotels, to do our shopping, and to watch movies whenever we like. You know all this. It's the reason we invited tech so freely into our lives. In this piece, we'll look at what happens when tech starts shaping our streets, our housing, and our public spaces. The tight streets and steep hills of Cork will be familiar to anyone who has spent time in the city. Many, including on the city's north side, were laid out long before the invention of the car, and certainly not with large articulated lorries in mind. Yet drivers relying on navigation apps are now regularly being directed onto roads that simply weren't built to handle them.
Very often what might happen to you is that you're on the Blackpool bypass and the navigation application will say there's traffic ahead, but I know a smarter route. When you have a navigation application telling you to come this way, well, you believe what you're being told on screen until you find yourself at a location like this, incredibly narrow, the place where trucks come to die, and you're stuck and you have nowhere to go except backwards. And if you're driving an articulated lorry, that's not going to happen.
And it's a situation residents say keeps happening. As recently as December, a truck became stuck here during morning rush hour, bringing traffic to a standstill.
They would have been invited to come down here either by the satellite navigation system, but also by the width of the road as it began. It's right angles on tight roads, and they have no choice except either remain here, be stuck, try to reverse back up, and panic ensues.
The issue in Cork seems to primarily be related to trucks, but of course I don't have a HGV licence. So instead I got myself a van and I'm going to try and experience Richmond Hill for myself. So apparently this is where the sign used to be to tell people not to drive down here, but that's gone. Residents told us that even when the warning signs were in place, they made little difference because drivers were following their GPS. Already this road is tightening up and I'm starting to think, are we even going to fit? So what's going through the heads of truck drivers who are approaching this part and they think, oh, I've made a huge mistake. You can see how narrow this turn is, but we're struggling to squeeze out around that corner, so it's hard to imagine how a truck makes it. Scenes like these have become all too familiar for locals like Joseph Fahy, who captured these shots.
We have more trucks stuck here in the last couple of years. Some of them had to be dismantled to get them out of it. The bottom of the hill, the railing is broken. Even the limestone curves are being scraped by parts of the trucks. It's gone beyond a joke. The sat-nav is pointing them that way.
Richmond Hill is just one example of a wider tension. The unintended consequences of technologies designed to make life easier.
And from our point of view of councillors, like our immediate responses are to say, look, can we get in touch with Google? Can we tell them, stop doing this?
But it's not that simple. A written response to a motion brought in January highlights the limits of what local authorities can do. City Council officials said that the best way to resolve the problem was to introduce new legislation requiring drivers of large vehicles to use an appropriate GPS navigation system or app and banning them from using Google or Apple Maps. In other words, local representatives concluded that the only way to address the problem was to change national legislation because they have no power to compel global technology companies to alter their systems.
You're dealing with companies that are in a different jurisdiction whose business isn't dealing with you. Just trying to get them to engage is a losing battle.
This issue isn't just confined to a hill in Cork. Across Ireland, other technologies designed to make our lives easier have reshaped communities in ways few people expected. Here in Connemara, some residents say tech is making an already difficult housing market even worse. Agus tar druch ioncar aige an Ghaeilge agus an counter Gaeltachta Comai. When Aunani Vrain returned to Indravan after several years down under, she found a housing market many locals say is now being shaped by global platforms offering short-term holiday lets.
When I came home, I was just absolutely shocked at how unwelcome I felt in my own country. There was nowhere to rent around, and I was looking at property to buy. And I felt sick looking at the websites because it was saying, oh, a perfect, ideal holiday home nestled in the peaceful Gaeltacht, marketed as this lovely romantic idea of having a beautiful home and that you could rent it out as short-term lets.
Anna's experience reflects a wider trend across Gaeltacht areas, where the rapid growth of short-term holiday rentals, enabled by platforms far removed from the communities involved, is intensifying competition for housing. Data compiled by the non-profit Inside Airbnb shows the number of entire homes listed in Gaeltacht areas has risen sharply in recent years. Between 2019 and 2025, listings increased by 88%, almost double the national rate of 48%. In some Gaeltacht areas, the impact is even more pronounced. In Cushfarga, which includes Indravan and Onspedale, the number of entire homes listed on Airbnb has more than doubled since 2019. Airbnb was contacted for comment, but no response was provided.
Tourism is massive in Ireland, and it does bring a lot of money into the country. We have nothing against tourism, but it's just there needs to be some sort of regulation to balance it out, because it's gone way too far the other way now. The government need to take action to protect the language. If the Gaeltacht isn't alive and thriving, the language is dead.
The tensions playing out in places like Connemara are not unique to Ireland. Across Europe, elected representatives are grappling with how to respond to the growing influence of technology companies over everyday life. In Italy, regulators briefly blocked ChatGPT over concerns how personal data was being used. And in France, the government has announced plans to develop a European alternative to video platforms like Zoom, arguing sensitive communications should not depend on foreign technology companies. Former Dutch MEP Marietje Schaake reflects a concern shared by many lawmakers across Europe.
We increasingly see that decisions made at the other end of the world have deep impact in local communities. I have described them as the new sovereigns because I think the collective power that they have through the various aspects of those business empires give them power that often exceeds that of nations. I mean, if you look at the market cap, so the value of the big tech companies, it exceeds the gross national product of Ireland, for example. And that money can buy lobbying influence. 20 years ago, these companies were much smaller than they are today. And I think, especially in a time after the crisis, which was difficult for everyone, it's normal to look at opportunities. But all in all, Silicon Valley companies, democratic governments in Europe, us citizens, have tended to look at the opportunities of tech much more than at the threats and the potential risks. And that has been naive.
That earlier naivety may have helped shape where we are today. Technology has undoubtedly improved many aspects of daily life, but a reliance on it also raises difficult questions about the ability of elected politicians to keep pace.
I think it's a very small question of a big question of our time. Who is in control? Is it a roads authority like Cork City Council, or is it another type of authority which is autonomous to everybody else?